Hi guys, this is Simon for Whiskey Lovers Group, and today we have Calum with me. Calum Rafferty, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name's Calum. A marketing and cask curator employee here at Ardnamurchan Distillery. I kind of work for Ardnamurchan, and my role as well is involved in Adelphi, which is the independent bottling side of our company. But essentially, my role here at the distillery is to assist in all things marketing. We don't have a very big marketing team because we're just a small team, and everyone tends to do a little bit of everything. So I assist in that, and then my role is slightly changing actually in the coming weeks as I become a cask curator for Adelphi.
And this would be my question then. What does it mean to be a cask curator?
Yes, it's a good question. It's not a question I can fully answer just yet because I don't really know how that role is going to be until I'm doing it. But as I understand it, my role will involve looking after this warehousing stock for Adelphi, keeping an eye on their casks, and essentially, dipping into the casks occasionally and kind of assessing them and relaying what I think about those whiskies back to Alex, Bruce, and Colin McKenzie, who are my bosses. They're the directors in the company. So I'll be able to gauge casks, decide if they maybe need to be matured in something different. But it's a kind of, that will be a more kind of trainee role as well. So I'll be learning on the job as well. I'm very, very excited for it. But I don't fully understand exactly yet what that's going to entail. But it sounds good. It does sound quite good.
My fingers are crossed, definitely, because it sounds like something very optimistic, good-looking, and with a great future.
It sounds like it's got a good title, at least, cask curator.
You can put it on your curriculum vitae easily,
yeah,
for the future. But hopefully, you're going to stay within the company for a very, very long time. And this cask curator thing, it would be something great for you. So my fingers are crossed.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've only been with Adelphi just for over a year. So I started with the company at the beginning of the last season as a tour guide here at the distillery. So it's been a nice week, kind of change of position, which was nice because it was relatively quickly. So I'm not complaining.
So guys, there's a high chance that somebody can go there, start to work, and also get promoted very quickly. So
yeah, look, here in the Ardnamurchan, we're always looking for people, because it's such a remote place. Finding people to work and live here is sometimes not the easiest.
I can imagine, especially when I saw at the map where are you located. But yeah. Regarding the location, I have already a question, because the location in general is very starring. It is remote, that's true. Yeah. It is very far away from the capital. But do you have any problems with the supplies in winter?
Well, to give you an idea of the location that we are, so if anyone has a map of Scotland handy, which is always Google Maps, if you look at Scotland, we are on the furthest, most westerly tip of mainland Britain. And obviously, Scotland is pretty remote as it is, but we for sure are one of the most remote parts of the country, which is cool. But as you said, it does bring challenges. You're about 5 hours drive to Edinburgh, depending on how good your driving is. And much of that drive is single track roads. It's an infamous place for the roads on the way in here because it's very, very challenging to drive. It's very narrow, it's very twisty, and it's very beautiful, it's stunning. But logistically, that's an issue for us because, as you said, we need to get our supplies, our casks here. We need to get our malted barley delivered, and that all has to come in on full-sized Arctic lorries. So very skilled drivers that bring their supplies to us. But I don't think it's been too much of a hindrance, It just involves a lot of planning. So that's really down to our distillery manager and just working out all these sorts of logistics. Luckily, not my job.
Luckily, you are not driving it on a daily basis from Edinburgh to
No,
Ardnamurchan.
no, exactly. I'll be needing to do that drive more often soon because the Adelphi side of our business is based closer to Edinburgh. So the warehouse for Adelphi is just outside Edinburgh. So I will be making that drive more often now.
Thanks God with that it won't be a lorry.
Yeah, I'll be okay. It just gives me a chance to do my shopping as well.
Okay. Getting back to the market trends and everything around, I was really curious a few years back when Adelphi has started to operate a different business in the same company, but still opening a distillery in the challenging times. Maybe not a challenging because during that time it was like everything went up,
Yes, exactly.
but like describing the actual market trends. How are you coping with it in Ardnamurchan, and how you are coping with it in Adelphi from your side?
Yeah, so I think as a company, as a distillery, we're sitting in quite a good position right now, and I know that's can't be said for every company in Scotland. There's been slight fluctuations in the market, and obviously when we started as one of the new generation of distillers, we started distilling here in 2014. So kind of the perfect time, particularly for a new distillery. It might have been nicer if we started up 5 years before that, and we'd have more whiskey in the market earlier. But for us, things have worked out quite well. So we started distilling in 2014. Our first whiskey was on the market in 2020. And in 2020 was obviously right in the middle of a global pandemic. And I think the guys at the time were a wee bit nervous about that. How do you promote a brand around the world, when you can't get in face to face and show people it and kind of gauge the reaction face to face. But in a way, it was good because we had a captive audience. We had, thousands of people, millions of people have, really sitting in their houses with not much else to do, but explore new whiskies, kind of get into whiskey as well. There was a lot of people who were new to whiskey, who kind of got an insight for whiskey during that time. So we did have this captive audience, and then we had the power of the internet, and we used it to our advantage. I remember Adelphi and Ardnamurchan promoting things during the lockdown years before I ever worked here. And it went very well to begin with. And I think it seems that we've obviously kept that momentum up because we still are we're producing more whiskey year on year, and it still sells. And we have a real die-hard core of whiskey fans that, to be honest, promote the whiskey better than probably we could ever do it ourselves. It's the whiskey fans, the ambassadors all around who are just enthusiasts, and they help us more than they probably think.
Yeah, I can remember when because Jarek in Poland is some kind of pioneer in case of the whiskey industry, and he went with plenty of tastings with Ardnamurchan.
Yeah.
And he is promoting the brand. But in general, I can tell you that I have tried few expressions, and there are quite few that I really like every single year. The single cask are going better and better. Not all of them are, of course, great, but there are some mixes which I really like, and I'm really looking forward to see how you're going to grow, because I really like this idea of whiskey, and the tasting profile is also very nice for me, and this is what people are telling also in Poland, that this is it. But I'll have a question regarding the distillery itself, because you have opened it in 2013 or 14.
So we started building in 2013, but really the real date is July 2014. When we first run that first run of Spirit. So since the birthday for us here.
Since that time, everything has changed, or maybe not everything, but the whiskey market and these fluctuations are going up and down. And I would say that right now we have a small crisis. This is what I sent. And for Adelphi? Is it challenging, or you are still producing more because you believe in it?
Yeah, look, I think when it comes to pricing, we make money. Okay, so that's our aim as a business. We want to make a profit, and from our point of view, we believe we're making a nice amount on each bottle of whiskey. So we don't really want to push it. We want people to go out to buy our whiskey, to drink our whiskey, and to continue drinking our whiskey. And I think that's part of why so far we've been successful. Our first whiskey, our inaugural release, was on the shelf, I think, for £45. Of course, we could have put a nice big high price tag on it. People would have bought it. But there's no guarantee that people would have drunk it. So for us, £45, great, that's a whiskey I can drink. And then people were already getting a feel for Ardnamurchan. And then release after release is always kept what I would say is a very fair price point, whether that be our single casks or cask strength or just our core. And I think that's why it works. People want to drink whiskey and they don't want to pay outrageous prices for it, which in some parts of the industry, that seems to be the trend.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that you are making money. That's great.
Yeah,
as the distillery, but as Adelphi, does it mean that you put more money into the distillery and less money into new make spirits that you are buying and having somewhere on site? Or is it on the same level? Maybe you know the answer to that question.
No, I don't know for sure, but I think I have a good idea, right? The two sides of that company are separate, right? We've got Adelphi and then we have Ardnamurchan. Now, as I understand it, if we go back into Adelphi's history, right, it started up again in 1993 and then was a small company, right? Alex Bruce got on board and he managed to grow the company significantly. We've got, again, a really good following of Adelphi fans. But we've never been a massive independent bottler. We're an independent bottler that is recognized. People, assume quality when they buy a bottle of Adelphi. But it's not massive. Now, the problem for an independent bottler in the industry, particularly if you went back to say around about the early 2000s to about 2007, was the whiskey market was going good, right? Several new distilleries are coming out, distilleries are increasing production, but yet there was always the demand for more whiskey. So it was getting more difficult for them to be able to buy casks and quality casks because distilleries would just want to keep all the good casks for themselves, okay? So they had a decision to make, and it was either to buy a lot of casks and run the business that way and stockpile and mature their own whiskey, or make the crazy decision to build a distillery. Now, the reason they went and built a distillery was because that was able to support Adelphi. Not only were we able to make our own single malt, but we can now use casks and spirit from Ardnamurchan to trade with other distilleries, right? And then we can use that whiskey to put together phenomenal Adelphi bottlings because of Ardnamurchan having that backup. Ardnamurchan's obviously now the biggest part of the business, but we use the distillery to support Adelphi and to keep providing what I think are fantastic cash releases. Some independent bottlers are struggling right now, but we seem to be doing okay because of that, I think.
So what I get from what you are saying is that you made a great move. So in general, you did the distillery in order to support you, but now the distillery is supporting you more and more with financing the core business.
Yeah. I mean, it did work out nicely, and it's probably a bit of timing as well that was good. It was a bit of good timing. But then you say that, but there's still new distilleries coming out all the time. I think when I started working in the industry, which would have been about 8 years ago, I'm sure there was under 100 distilleries. And now there's 150 single malt distilleries. It's absolutely bonkers. So there might have been a slight slump in the market, but figure-wise, we're still miles ahead of where we were, say, 15 years ago. So it's still good. The news is still good on that front.
And you are getting a lot of different awards. Which award are you the most proud of?
Oh, we have a lot. Yes, we do seem to be gathering a lot of awards recently, you know. For me personally, it would be we won Best Sustainable Distillery of the Year 2023. I personally care a lot about sustainability, and I know the team here at the distillery do. And we've constantly been putting things together to make our processes here more sustainable. So it's quite nice to get a bit of recognition for that, even though, you know, it's great for me is that from a marketing point of view, I can talk about how sustainable we are, but it's not the main reason why we were doing it for the kind of promotion side of things. It's because it makes sense. We're in, again, this remote part of Scotland, and we have managed to use our local environment to, for example, power the distillery. So it makes sense. It's not just a good marketing ploy. And yeah, it is nice to get that recognition. You know, distillery, Sustainable Distillery of the Year is pretty cool. You know.
So it would be my next question, but you already have answered it. You think that you are top environmental friendly distillery in whole Scotland? From your end, how you are doing that?
I don't know, right? I think it's quite hard to quantify how sustainable a distillery is because you've got scale. You've also got the age of the distillery. So we have an advantage of being a modern distillery. We've got modern technology here. We're still making our whiskey very much hands-on. There's no automation, but we have technology involved that we can be very efficient with our water, with our power. And if you go to some of the older distilleries, you know, they don't have that luxury, but they're still doing lots to be as sustainable as they can. There's distilleries like our neighbours across the way at Nachnean Distillery, you know, doing phenomenal things in sustainability. So I wouldn't like to say that, yes, we are #1 sustainable distillery, but I definitely think we're up there, you know, and it's something it's a journey, right? We're always developing new things. We're working on something right now as we speak to treat our wastewaters. So it's a big investment, but if we can make that work, again, it'll save us money in the long run, and it's good for the environment. So it's a win-win. But no, I wouldn't like to say that we are the most sustainable distillery in the country. I think that's it'd be too big a statement to make, I think. But I don't know, to be honest. I don't know.
But you said that you are. You said that you are up there, and this is very important. That you are also thinking this is one of the important thing to do as a distillery because you are doing it for the environment. I will get back to the production themselves, and the question would be: are you experimenting a lot with Ardnamurchan? Or with maturation techniques or the cask that you are using? Any interesting projects that you can share with us?
So fundamentally, as a distillery, we are making a very traditional Highland style. Okay, we're using techniques that have been used for the last 200 years. I like to say we're not really trying to reinvent the wheel, as in we're making a very classic Highland style and a traditional method, even though we're a new distillery, which I think we're proud of, right? Just down to go to our warehousing, we have 19,000 casks here on site. All of our whiskey is matured here, and it's all in traditional dunnage style warehousing. So earth floors, casks are stacked beautifully 3 or 4 high. And as I say, in production, it's all manual. However, we do experiment a lot. You know, we experiment with different barley varieties. So earlier in the year, we were experimenting with heritage malts. Every year we will use Golden Promise, which is a phenomenal old barley strain. And if you've ever tried a whiskey made with Golden Promise, there's not many about. If you have, then there's a difference, right? It's a creamier spirit. So we really like that. Unfortunately, it's very low yielding, so it's not something we could implement all year round. And we've also experimented with barley varieties, that were used in the 1920s. Things like Chevalier and Maris Otter. But we're doing that for a couple of weeks of the year to see how it works and see how it compares to our kind of core style. We do like to experiment a little bit. Again, that comes to fermentation. When we're using these different barley strains, we have to do things slightly different in fermentation. And then in the warehouse, again, traditional, the majority of the casks we have maturing here is bourbon and sherry, okay? And that's for a reason. They are good, solid casks. If we were to break it down very simply, we've got about 65% bourbon casks, 35% sherry casks maturing on site, which is a similar breakdown to our core, our core whiskey. But we still have a lot of other more interesting casks in the warehouse. I can give you a list. We have things like Madeira casks. We've got a variety of sherry casks, things like Paul Cortado. We've got Manzanilla, filled Fino sherry just recently. We have got rum casks up in the warehouse. We've got tequila casks, mezcal casks, very interesting. We've got ex-Chardonnay barriques, like from Paul Noir, Champagne barriques. And our most recent release is a whiskey matured in Sauterne. So very unusual cask type, but delicious whiskey. In fact, I've got it right here. I don't know if it's made it to Poland yet, but if it hasn't, you should definitely get your hands on this.
As far as I remember, it hasn't, but hopefully Jarek is going to have it during Whiskey Live Warsaw. If not, I'm going to ask him for bringing those.
I think Antonia and DJ will be going to Whiskey Live Poland, so they should have it. Definitely go and pester them for a wee dram. It's delicious. It's really, really nice.
And what is your favorite whiskey to drink?
My favorite whiskey, I would say, is a free whiskey. One that I don't have to pay for. Like this one.
Any particular type or just free? Free is a good price. We know it.
Free is a good price. No, I do. I like affordable whiskey for sure. My background in whiskey, in terms of my kind of journey into whiskey, I think the first whiskey I ever drank and remember it really loving was Bunnahabhain 12. And I still think that's up there for me, Bunnahabhain. But I have a varied thing. Like getting into my whiskey, it was always Islay whiskies, It was always Islay. But so now
you are into peat a lot.
Yeah, I love peated whiskey. I love unpeated whiskey. I'm definitely more of a West Coast style for sure. So all the Islay whiskies love. I used to live and work in a distillery on Islay, and Ardnamurchan is somewhere between your Islay malts and your Highland malts. So it sits in there quite nice. My favourite dram for us is probably our cask strength. Majority bourbon matured, it's got the peat, so it's definitely more my kind of thing is our cask strength. And again, it's like £65. I don't know what that's in zloty, but £65.
Very affordable from that case. I call myself this kind of whiskey as sippers. So like evening Netflix sippers.
Yeah, what's your favorite kind of whiskey?
Like my style would be go into Springbank.
Yeah, Springbank. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't turn my nose up at a Springbank. That's for sure. If I can find it.
Exactly. This is the point. If you are lucky enough to find it in Poland, it is not so easy. Then you are off to go. But I have plenty of different type of whiskeys opened for an evening sipper. And for now, I don't have any Ardnamurchans.
No,
but I'm looking forward to the new releases. The releases is going to be from Adelphi selections.
Yes, there's some very, very interesting things.
There were some like Glen Elgins and probably Ben Rines. Something like this was in my mind recently that it has gone up. So I'm looking forward to taste some of those, because these for me are also these evening sippers, because I prefer to have a higher ABV.
Yeah, for me, it's like the Adelphi side of things. I always knew about Adelphi. It wasn't something I was purchasing all the time because I could never find it, first of all, because we don't release that much. So normally if you see it, it's definitely worth grabbing a bottle. I was always I came to this distillery as an Ardnamurchan fan, which is great for me because now I'm working in the, in the distillery full time. But I can honestly say, see, for Adelphi, I've never tried one that I wouldn't have another dram of. Honestly, it's very good stuff. Cask strength, great casks. That's great. Very good stuff.
Okay, thank you, Calum, for the interview, because we'll probably spend another hour talking to each other. I don't want to make this interview so long. So thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate that.
No, dziękuję.
Dziękuję.
Anything else before we call it quits?